Hey guys, it's Rob here and welcome back to another video. In this video, we do have some pretty interesting things when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 price. A former Nintendo employee is coming out and saying some things on how retailers are handling, or at least not handling, the Nintendo Switch 2 price. So the Nintendo Switch 2 price has been in the news in the past couple days. There are multiple things that are happening with the Nintendo Switch 2 price. A couple months back, there was a rumor going around that the Nintendo Switch 2 price is gonna be $400, and that was pretty much the price that was set for just the longest time until another thing popped up where a potential Costco employee leaked the actual price, and they had a picture of the tag and some pictures of the actual Nintendo Switch 2 in the database. Now that price was gonna be 500 Canadian. Translate that to US numbers and it's about 351 or so. Now of course in the last video that I uploaded, I think it was the last video, either that or the one before, we talked a bit about how that wouldn't really make any sense for a Nintendo Switch 2 to be 350 since the Nintendo Switch OLED is already 350 unless Nintendo plans on reducing the price of that Nintendo Switch, which possibly could be happening because the new bundle for Mario Day was leaked and then confirmed by Best Buy, and that's gonna be 350. It comes with Mario Wonder and a Nintendo Switch OLED, which was already 350. So Mario Wonder is what, I think 70, is it? Or is it 50? It's one of the two, but either way, it's gonna be about $400 plus the Nintendo Switch Online Service 3-month pack. So you're saving quite a lot of money, and if Nintendo is okay with doing that for a bundle, it makes you wonder if they do have future plans to reduce the price. And if that's the case, then the Nintendo Switch 2 might be $350. Now the interesting thing here is a former employee came out and said some things about how retailers are knowing nothing about the Nintendo Switch 2 price. This is what Nintendo Life has to say. Switch 2 placeholder prices have been popping up all over the internet in recent weeks. So is there any truth to these retailer listings? Speaking on the latest episode of Kit and Krista podcast, a former Nintendo sales lead has apparently set the record straight. Now before we continue, this is actually pretty fantastic because this does have something to do with that Costco employee if that was actually real. When asked if the retailers are in the loop about the price of Nintendo's new and highly anticipated next-gen hybrid hardware, he claims these stores know nothing and certainly not the price. Here's the full exchange. So this is what Kit said. Something that's happening a lot now is like some retailers will have some listings for Switch 2 $400 and people will be like, okay, confirmed. What do retailers know at this point in the game? And this is what the former Nintendo employee has to say. Nothing. Nothing, certainly not the price, almost certainly not any kind of launch date other than maybe a quarter. It always makes me laugh to see these articles like Walmart Canada says the price is going to be this. Walmart Canada is the last people that are gonna know. Now there have been a ton of rumors, Nintendo Switch leaks, and a whole bunch of talk from analysis, and just overall a very giant conversation on what Nintendo is gonna price it. And I think the price is a very important point. Too high and a lot of people are going to be iffy on it, and too low, well I guess you can't go too low, but if it's low people are going to love it, but obviously Nintendo's a company and they're not your friends, so they also want to make money, you know? So there's going to have to be a sweet spot that they're going to hit, and if they hit it just right, the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be a huge success. Wrapping around to that previous rumor or leak from the Costco employee, if this is true that none of these retailers do have the price, that means that was probably a placeholder, more than like either that or he was just lying his butt off. One of the two is happening here. There's also another thing you have to keep in mind. This is a former employee of Nintendo. They're not an employee of Nintendo. So they don't really know what Nintendo is doing right now with the Nintendo Switch 2. They could have changed the way they do things. You never really know. So also just keep that in the back of your head. But if I were to put a former Nintendo employee versus just some random employee at Costco, I'd probably believe the former employee. Now, let's say they don't know. When can we actually see the price of the Nintendo Switch 2 and what should the price be? I think that's a very important conversation that we should have. Make sure you share your thoughts down in the comment section below. But in my opinion, I feel like 350 would be a very, very good price. Now, if I'm being completely honest, that's part of me just wanting to be a lower money. Realistically, I think 400 is probably what the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to cost. The reason why I say that is because a lot of these handhelds cost about 400 to 500, sometimes more depending on what you're getting. When you compare it to something like the Steam Deck, it costs $399, so 400, and that's an LCD. It's not even the OLED version. The OLED version costs $549. Now, the LCD Steam Deck also is 256 gigabytes. So you're getting that for $400, and it's a pretty powerful handheld. At least I assume it is anyways, for a handheld. So if we can look at that price point as the baseline, because more than likely Nintendo's probably not going to put a lot of memory in the Nintendo Switch 2. Somewhere between $350 and $400 is going to be. I personally want $350 because the cheaper the better. That means they can lower the price of the Nintendo Switch OLED and the original Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch Lite, and those will end up being more affordable, and Nintendo is clearly going to be providing games for both systems, Switch 2 and Switch 1, so I feel like that is just really perfect. But I would not be shocked if it's $400. In fact, I would say that $400 is probably more likely. But the big question is, what would you guys be willing to pay for the Nintendo Switch 2? $400 is my cutoff mark. After that, I'm probably going to be selling maybe a game or two to pay for the rest of it. Now, there's another conversation that comes up when it comes to the pricing of this versus like the PS5 and Xbox Series X and the Steam Deck and all the other handhelds. It's the idea of Nintendo having competition in this space. So far, Nintendo really hasn't had a lot of competition. You could say that the Steam Deck and other handhelds like that are competition for the Nintendo Switch, but to be honest, they really aren't. If it's coming from, let's say, Sony and Xbox, though, that is direct competition. And I would even go so far to say that the PS5 and Xbox Series X is competition to the Nintendo Switch for certain games, because some games are on all platforms. I have a PS5 and a Nintendo Switch and a PC as well, and when deciding, well, not a strong PC, but strong enough to play some games, I should say. Still gotta upgrade it, but of course that costs money, and you gotta save for the Switch too, right? But anyways, when I'm picking games, I'm picking whether I'm gonna get it on PC, I'm gonna get it on the PS5, or I'm gonna get it on the Nintendo Switch. Something like when Hades came out, I bought that on the Nintendo Switch. Could have bought it on the PS5 if I wanted to. I could have easily ran it on my PC, but I chose the Nintendo Switch because it's portable. It's the same thing when you're buying consoles. Of course, money is also a factor as well, and if Nintendo does go that cheaper route, people are going to look at the Nintendo Switch versus, let's say, the PS5 Pro and the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, especially since a lot of their games are going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 more than likely. We already know Xbox is already saying that they're going to be bringing more games to the Nintendo Switch, and more than likely COD will also run on the Nintendo Switch 2 because it's in the deal. So when you look at those consoles, especially if Xbox and Sony do bring out their handhelds, why wouldn't you go with the Nintendo Switch? You get Nintendo's fantastic games, you also get some of their games as well, and you also get third-party support on top of that. And then if you really want to play those games, you can have Game Pass, and you can go on PC for those higher frame rate resolutions. And look, I love my PS5. I play it a lot. Hell, I spent... and don't judge me for this, I spent about 350 hours in Dragon Age Veilguard. This was between multiple playthroughs. I only finished one so far, but I got really addicted to the combat and exploration, and it was just really fun testing out different builds and stuff. So I spent a lot of time on that, and that was all on my PS5. But I'm gonna be honest, if the Nintendo Switch 2 was already out and Dragon Age Veilguard came out, and they showed off a Nintendo Switch 2 version that looked pretty similar to the PS5 version, or even if it was a little bit worse graphical wise, like resolution and frame rate, I would 100% have bought it on the Nintendo Switch 2. I wouldn't have got it on the PS5. I'm gonna be honest here. So I think that price point is gonna be very important, and if it's $400 to or even $350, that is going to be extremely great. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch 2 price talk. We talked about a little about this in the other video as well. There were some other things. If you guys want to watch that, it'll be at the end of this video, which should be popping up right now. And you can go and watch that. And with that being said, guys, I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.